Welcome back with another banger. It's the React Files. Hope you're having a good night. Let's get straight to it.
Figure is captured on camera standing on a balcony in the darkness in a mosque. If you pay close attention, you'll actually notice that the figure's clothes are eerily similar to pre-Islam attire, so this figure could very well be a jinn. Although they don't like to appear, they still do so by shape-shifting into many forms. It's extremely rare to see a full-bodied apparition of a jinn, so this really could be a first. Watch this.
Kita ni ngaji ni weh. Lagu hewan sekitaran masjid. Apa ni weh? Apa ni weh? Weh apa ni weh? Weh ni. Sumpah weh. Boleh wah. Bani weh. Apa ni weh? Weh apa ni weh? Weh ni.
Everyone needs to pay attention to what's happening in China right now, because for countries like the United States, it is terrifying. You see, for a while now, cheap shit from China has been the perception of products coming out of the country. And for years, while companies like Tesla blew up, there was a real hesitation to buy Chinese cars. However, fast forward just 5 short years, China has exploded to become the world's largest car producer and exporter in the world. That graph is unbelievable. In fact, last year, China sold 50% more cars abroad than the next largest exporter. Their largest car company, BYD, is now also overtaken Tesla, the world's most valuable car company, in both revenue and sales. And it's only expected to get even crazier, because BYD's new EV factory will span 50 square miles. That's an area larger than the city of San Francisco. And that's a level of production that most simply can't compete with. The thing is, it's not just electric cars. This long game approach that China started working on 15 years ago is seemingly all kicking in now. Just this week, China's flying taxis were granted the world's first operation certificates. For context, that is the final regulatory green light that they needed to start flying, meaning autonomous air taxi services will begin this year in China. This year! China also built the planet's largest high-speed rail network, which is 48,000 kilometers of track in just 15 years. But here's where things get interesting, because Joe Biden attributed China's meteoric rise to unfair business. And hear me out, because he's kind of got a valid point. You see, unlike companies in the West, which are separate from the government, in China, they're kind of not. This means that if the CCP wants to become the world's leader when it comes to cars, they can pour massive amounts of money into companies like BYD. This allows those private companies to rapidly expand in scale, to have aggressively lower prices than the competition, to have reduced financial risk because they've literally got the Chinese government behind them, and then ultimately, as a result, can flood the global market with cars that are not just cheaper than the competition, but more technologically advanced too. And the thing is, consumers don't often care about how a company has arrived to the final product. If it's better and cheaper, most likely it'll just be bought. And that's why the United States and many other countries around the world have implemented up to 100% tariffs on Chinese cars to make them more expensive. Because if they just sat back and let them flood the market, local companies simply couldn't compete, because it's not just an unlevel playing field, it's a whole separate playing field altogether. And that's the tricky problem that we're at now. Consumers in the West are seeing the stuff coming out of China and are asking their government why they are purposefully not allowing them to have it, especially during the cost of living crisis that we're currently in. But the question is, what do you think? Is it fair for a government to protect their local companies from unfair business, kind of like how we break up monopolies? Or should markets simply be left to decide winners and losers naturally?
Wow, that's a tough question. What I do know is that those BYD cars look nice. Shout out to Dylan Page. Man, they look way better than Teslas. Like, yo, I ain't even gonna cap. Them joints like some joint out of a video game, and them prices were affordable. What? I guess this is the difference between pouring money into wars and pouring money into technology. Like you said, they focused on a long game. Now they got flying taxis, yo. I'm low-key jealous. Like, yo, they living like the Jetsons. Dang, yo. Why he had to show me this? What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below.
Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this.
That's amazing. Shout outs to Izoe with a frequency art gun. Never seen anything like this in my life. This is a first. That's crazy. This dude about to open up a Stargate.
By far, the weirdest thing I experienced in Egypt was not the giant mega box of granite, but it was on the same island that box is on. We accidentally ran an experiment on the island, actually, with some copper. I am still trying to wrap my head around this. The place is called Elephantine Island. Arguably one of the most beautiful places in Egypt. The temple itself is 5,000 years old and in absolute shambles. That is literally all that's left. And somehow the giant box has remained intact. So we're walking through this temple and I look over and I see my friend Chelsea putting this box on the altar there. At the time, I didn't think anything of it. So we just kept walking and explored the rest of the temple. When we get back to the boat, she shows us her tensors. These are wound copper pendants. You can't bend them yourself. Ironically, the only ones that got deformed were the ones that have the same exact shape of a magnetic field. I thought she was fucking with me, so I tried to bend them back into place, and I could not do it. What does this mean? We've got to use some context clues here. So we'll go back to this giant box. Made out of solid granite, would have gone in the center of a temple, Holy of Holies, like in Ed. They have to do with these solar boats. Egyptian lore tells us that these boats were a method of traveling through the netherworld. The snake in this one is around the sun god. We know they're not boats because on the hieroglyphs, we always see them with stars. And ironically, they actually resemble a wormhole pretty closely. Mainstream story tells us that these are for divine protection, maybe protecting the divine. So if you got in one of these, what happened? Well, what do we use rock for? We put our most sensitive detectors in rock to shield from the electromagnetic interference of other parts of the spectrum. The use of very specific materials indicates a function, not a decorative choice. Now, the tensors weren't hooked up to a power source or anything like this. They were just in a box by themselves. So that specific geometry has some sort of interaction with whatever is flowing through Elephantine Island. So if you happen to be going soon, maybe test this out and send me what happened.
Shoutouts to baseforge.us with that amazing footage right there in Egypt. Yeah, that copper with the magnetic field almost looked like the tree of life. That was pretty trippy. Couldn't bend it? How did it get like that? Very interesting.
Mulai dari situ jam berapa? Jam 12 nih. Mulai teh. Bita sendiri pa sunyi. Patule. Kamu lihat teh. Ite tidak ada sih. Itu. Dalam. Mulai dari situ jam berapa? Jam 12 nih. Mulai teh. Bita sendiri pa sunyi. Patule. Kamu lihat teh. Ite tidak ada sih. Itu. Dalam.
Well,
Yeah, I'm gonna start playing now. Keep it up. All right. Bye. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, I ask you, Jesus, for shit in this home. I ask you to take this demon away from my house. Leave my house now! Leave my house!
This is the most demonic thing I have ever seen taken place at any sporting event in my entire life. What you're looking at is a demon being summoned in the crowd on top of a satanic pentagram, and there's even demonic chants on the banners below the crowd. What you're looking at is a home game of FC Kaiserslautern, also known as FCK, and they're doing a pre-game ritual, and what you're going to see here is that people are holding up signs, and it creates a satanic pentagram. And as time goes on, you can see the person shifting the camera. On the other side, I believe those words say invincible forever. But then slowly there's a demon that's going to arise. Now, if you look at the bottom, the banners here, they say words in Latin. And if we translate them, let's see what it says. Exaudi nos Lucifer et surge ex abyss sume nimas nostra. Oh my gosh, this says, hear us, O Lucifer, and rise from the abyss, take our souls. What the heck? Now they actually say something else as Lucifer is slowly spawning from the crowd. It says, ad lucem nos Lucifer, et surge ex abysso sume animas nostras. Jesus, forgive me for even saying this, but it says, to light us, O star, and arise from the abyss, take our souls. What the heck? I mean, I don't care if their mascot is like a devil or something, whatever the heck it is. This is the weirdest thing I have ever seen. There's got to be some evil energy going on in this game. This is the...
My man had to apologize for even saying it. I feel him. He was just reporting, but yo, that's crazy.
Tiamat the great Tiamat. And therefore it is precisely what the Sumerian texts say, that there was another planet and that perished in the celestial battle and the collision. And therefore the interpretation that you mentioned, though it is not linked to the words or to the name Tiamat, links to the same meaningful result. In other words, that Earth is the result of a celestial catastrophe. There was a catastrophe from which our planet emerged. Right.
Yeah.
So it leads to the same conclusion in different ways, and maybe it's good that two approaches lead to the same conclusion.
Yeah. I have always felt that there was most likely another civilizations, ancient civilizations, even before, and this is just my own conjecture, even before the ones that we know of.
Definitely, you're absolutely right on that, because even according to the Sumerian tales, and especially, many texts, but especially the so-called King List, that deals with the cities, pre-antediluvial cities, and with the 10 preceding the deluge, 10 rulers, which some compare to the 10 patriarchs in the Bible before the deluge. And there were cities, there was a civilization. The Assyrian king, Ashurbanipal, boasted that he could read tablets from before the flood. So all the indications are that they recognized, referred to, and accepted this fact that there was a civilization, but a civilization of the gods, because those cities pre-diluvial are spoken of as cities of the gods.
Right.
After the deluge, there came cities of men with the help of the Anunnaki. So the sons of demigods, which meant offspring of the Anunnaki, like the sons of gods in the Bible says married the daughters of men and had children by them.
Yes.
And these would be called demigods.
Right.
And then only began the human civilization with the pharaohs around 3100 BC. So what you are stating very succinctly is really can be supported and expanded by all these records from the past, some available more or less complete, many just in fragments.
Well, you know, about 20 years ago, I talked with the president of the American Rabbinical Association, who was a good friend of mine, and we used to carry on long conversations over the phone. And I asked him about in Genesis 9, I believe it is, where this is after the flood of Noah's day, God says to Noah to go forth with his sons and daughters, sons and wives, and go forth and multiply and replenish the earth. Re obviously mean do again.
Right.
And yes, that's understood. It was to, and obviously to redo the earth because God had destroyed so much of the light. But then again, if you go back, as I said to him, if you go back to Genesis 1, I believe it's 28, where God creates Adam and Eve, and he's telling the original couple to go forth, reproduce, and replenish the earth. Do it again.
No, the word again does not appear there. It says, Prurvu maluet haaretz. Be fruitful in terms of having offspring, revu, multiply, and fill the earth.
But it doesn't have replenish?
No.
Well, in the original,
not regarding Adam. Well,
yeah. That's what that was
these
the
are
question.
the dangers of translations.
I know.
The translators really interpret.
Yeah.
So it says, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it. It doesn't say anything about doing it again. Shout outs to the professor for checking Jordan Maxwell. Was Jordan Maxwell trying to insert his own propaganda? What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below.
When I tell you that this is part of the second coming of Christ, they got you thinking this man is crazy. But when we learn about Kanye West, he's not crazy. We're just not in the know until we know. So this is the capirote. This comes from the Moorish tradition in Old Spain. See, they used to wear this the week before Easter Sunday. And guess what Kanye wore the week before Easter Sunday? And this is about having repentance and showing remorse and mourning for the Christ. And see, this year is special because we are waking up. That is the second coming of the Christ. We are the Moors, and we're going to reclaim our land, our sovereignty. First, we're reclaiming it spiritually. But you got to remember, when you see those white robes, they took everything from us, repackaged it, and then you think it's something else now. But see, now in the age of Aquarius, ignorance is a choice. You have Google, you have ChatGPT. You just got to do a little bit of digging, a little bit of critical thinking, and your answers are right there. He's leaving us breadcrumbs.
Wow, I did not know that. Shout outs to Sean Israel Carroll. I really thought Kanye was trolling. And if this is the case, you can't really blame anybody who took offense to this, to what he was wearing. Can't blame him at all.
It's said that people who pass away tragically or suddenly by an accident never realize that they are already lifeless. This is a photograph taken by police at the scene of a tragic accident. The image shows a swampy wetland where the fatal car accident occurred. Among the bushes, a figure can be seen whose presence is disturbing. Its position and appearance have generated speculation as it seems to be observing the scene of the accident. Let's see this terrifying photograph. Follow me for your dose of nightmare fuel.
Hey, my friends, this is going to be a hoot. Is there anybody alive, do you think, that doesn't know about the Sphinx? It's in Egypt, the Sphinx. I doubt that there is too many people that don't know. If you said, what about the Sphinx? I think they would understand what you were talking about. Does anybody really understand the Sphinx? And the answer is no. Let's look at what the Sphinx really is and what we can determine from material evidence. Not, oh, they must have been this, they must have been that. No. Let's look at the material evidence. I do chemistry, anatomy, physiology, and then I go to the ancient texts. But I need something to support those ancient texts. And I have found all those things. And I mean right across the board. These ancient texts are not to be dismissed, my friends, and I will show you why. This is a pretty good shot right here. This is where the hole in his head was. It was just a hole there. And if you follow it down, it hits here. Now, this is the nasal cavity right here. This is not the nasal cavity. That, I believe, is a shaft, and I believe this here is where the arrowhead was tied on here. It looks like to me. I don't know. I've had other people say the same thing. They say, yeah, you know, we agree that it certainly looks like that, and it certainly does. Now, the hole comes right down from the top. Now, in the ancient text, it says Hercules shot all of them, every one of the giants with arrows. That's all I can say. Okay, so he's talking about the academics are studying this stuff, but they really don't study everything. They sort of hide out from certain things. But Egyptology within academic fields, there are
many no-go areas of study. Although hard work and research within permitted areas has taught us a great deal about the previous 4,000 years of the...
What is this, 1993 and 2002? This thing, what does that mean?
...site's inhabitants. Yet regardless of the most astute academic thesis, there remains 3 proverbially large elephants in the room. When it comes to a full or even a mere fraction of an explanation in regards to the origin of these seemingly impossibly huge pyramids remains patiently absent. No accounts, illustrations of any kind from the era exists. It is simply illogical, especially when one considers the sheer feat these structures must have been. We have presented many previous features, polygonal masonry being present on the pyramid.
You see these? You see the bumps on these? See the bumps? It's the same as they have down in Peru. I know what these bumps are. And these were, I'll tell you later what they are.
Pyramids. Eroded, yet younger casing stones protecting inner megaliths, clearly of a tremendous age. Salt sediment found encrusting the lower chambers, and so on, suggesting not only that the pyramids are much older than currently claimed, but were pre-flood ruins.
All right, I absolutely 100% agree with them. They were pre-flood, yes. And that's why they were pretty easily constructed. There was giants here on Earth, and nobody can possibly even believe how big they were. To them, this is like Tinker Toys. I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. And then they were wiped out in the flood. They were pre-flood giants.
Thus, questions arise. Just how old are the Great Pyramids? In addition to our study of the pyramids, we have also, in the past, asserted that the Sphinx was originally a lion, which interestingly correlates to the following hypothesis with fascinating accuracy: the Orion theory. The coincidence with pyramids aligned with Orion's belt and other significant constellational positions. Bauval and Hancock support the theory.
All right, this I don't necessarily know anything about this, so I don't go with that. But this part back here, pre-flood, yes, they were pre-flood creatures. And pre-flood, they built these pyramids. The Earth is literally made of bodies of giant creatures. The Baalbek stones are absolutely gigantically enormous, but with these pre-flood creatures that were the giants that had to be removed from the Earth, they were big enough that 2 or 3 of them could have picked one of those stones up, or maybe even one of them. Depends. Enoch said they were 2 miles tall, taller than that. So you take it for what you take, and I don't discount any of those early texts. They removed them from all the mainstream texts, just like they would remove all my stuff, like they remove Velikovsky's stuff, because it was too much for the average human mind to absorb. It was just too spectacular, too much. It scares the hell out of people, and it does. I'm not saying it's not scary. I'm not saying it's not insane. But if something is what it is what it is, and it is what it is.
Just how old are the Great Pyramids?
This I don't know.
In addition to our study of the pyramids, we have also, in the past, asserted that the Sphinx was originally a lion.
Originally a lion, yes. And they opened up. the back end of this thing, and they climbed in there, and it was literally, it was either a vagina or it was a rectum. One or the other, there's no difference, basically, with the look of them. And they went through there, and I could see there's virtually no question. Now, the other thing is, as I have claimed, the arrowhead through the head was the signature of Hercules when they wiped out the giants. Now, Sphinx, I would say, was a giant. It was pretty big. Okay, I'm going to show you something. It's just as what it is. This is the Apollodorus Library, which was all of the books written primarily by Hesiod at the direction of the daughters of Zeus. And he glorified the gods and all of the history. So he had the birth of Zeus, the war of the Titans, Olympian gods. These are all the books he wrote. Apollo, Artemis, Demeter, and Persephone, the war of the giants and Typhon, which we're going to look at in a second. Then there was Prometheus, Deucalion. Deucalion was Noah, and the daughters of so-and-so, sons of all these different, Jason and the Argonauts and all that stuff, and on, and then Hercules and the wars of Hercules, and then all of this stuff goes on and on and on and on. All of these books he wrote on the Trojan Wars and all that stuff. Now, listen to this. We're going to go to 1.6.2. All right, so, well, 1.6.1 talks about the earth being vexed on account of the Titans, and he brought forth the giants. And let's just get to the meat of the matter. Everybody's killing everybody. I mean, just nothing but slaughter. And Porphyrion attacked Hercules and Hera, and Zeus inspired him with lust for Hera, and he tore her robes, and he would have forced her to have sex. Zeus smote him with a thunderbolt. Hercules shot him dead with an arrow. Hercules shot every one of them dead with arrows. That's why I say he shot the Sphinx. Now listen to this. They're talking about everybody's killing everybody, and then at the very end it says the other giants, Zeus, who was the god, smote. He killed them all and destroyed with thunderbolts, and all of them Hercules shot with arrows as they were dying. All of the giants Hercules shot with arrows as they were dying. And then Earth had intercourse with Tartarus and brought forth Typhon, which is the dragon in the desert. And it explains him exactly correct. This red flared eye, his head often brushed the stars. It's exactly what he was, and he is there. Whoops. Never mind. I'm not going to bother showing. I've shown 100,000, literally hundreds of times. And he is in the desert. And he was on the maps of some of these ancient things. And the stories here are just stunning. But I'm going to show you, it looks to me like the Sphinx got an arrow right through his head. You see that? It's on both sides of the neck. The red and the blue, that's the vein and the artery. And they go straight up both sides of the neck. Well,
did you write a swastika on it?
I'm sorry you're upset.
Did you write a swastika?
It didn't even work. Apparently it doesn't work.
Did you write a swastika on the... It's a key, sir. We see it on the video.
Discontent towards Tesla continues to rise with attacks across America on the popular car brand.
When I looked at those showrooms burning and those cars, not one or two, like 7, 8, 10 burning, exploding all over the place. These are terrorists. You didn't have that on January 6th, I can tell you.
With billionaire Elon Musk positioned powerfully alongside the president, many citizens have expressed themselves by turning their attention to his company Tesla.
You just keyed a Tesla. You got a video online. I just saw it. It's all over the face. You have the media.
I have nothing against your car, and I have nothing against you.
So why would you write a swastika on a Tesla?
Obviously, I have something against Elon Musk, but that's not the way to show
So Elon Musk owns that car? Because it was bought and paid for.
With tension reaching boiling point and no sign of the attacks slowing, there's no telling what might be next, with current Tesla owners tense that their car might be next.
This should just be said until it's fully comprehended. The Statue of Liberty was not a gift. That's the stupidest story I've ever heard. A schizophrenic homeless person told you that, you know, that's a gift from France? Appropriately say, no, it's not, and put it in that category. But instead, you read in a history book that it's a gift from France to say thank you. Remember the Revolutionary War 100 years ago? Good job. Here's a skyscraper. An enormous skyscraper in the water made of copper of an intricately carved statue of probably Lucifer. Lady Liberty, who said, please immigrate here. It's a very stupid story, and it's like many other stupid stories. It's just there because the magnificent structure is there. And you need a story, however dumb, and maybe you have a whole branch of history, which is really just fiction writing. Great Wall of China is also probably not what we think it is. The Taj Mahal's not what we think it is. Big Ben's not what we think he is. The Leaning Tower of Pisa, it said 177 years it took to build what a stupid story. Actually, it took 2 million years. We just ants built it. Highly advanced beavers built Hoover Dam once upon a time. It's just these history books are laughable. How did we not notice this? How has no one questioned this? Statue of Liberty's a gift. Get the fuck out of here with that dumb story. Has anyone ever had a friend like America has had France as a friend? Did French people like Americans? Do Americans like French people? Like, did we like each other more 100 years ago? This is so flippin' stupid. And it's wake up time. Let's look at what's really happened. Call a senator. Ask Joe Rogan, okay? I'm pretty sure Joe Rogan must be on the take. How has he not talked about the age of the buildings? But again, I only knew like a few years ago, so who am I to talk? I've been all over the world and I build things for a living. This is my house. It's not much. Wish I had a horse and a buggy. I could have made a palace. I just worked a little harder. Things could be a little bit easier. No, we're just so lazy nowadays, guys. We're so lazy and stupid nowadays. People used to be so smart. It's definitely not possible that all the boomers got tricked by malicious liars. Is that possible? And the boomers' parents and the boomers' grandparents, and we really don't know anyone before then. We just have silly history books. And so these are all just my thoughts.
Our history is just lies. Founders, not builders. I pretty much agree. Shout out to Jonathan Davison Hutchins.
Okay, my friends, extreme shocker du jour. I'm going to be going over the Sphinx, and I want to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. And look up what the biggest turkey that was ever grown was, and I think I can show you one. It was likely a bit larger and had feathers this thick. So things are not what we thought they were. So let's talk about the Sphinx. And what am I claiming? I'm claiming he got shot through the head with an arrow. And it came right through there, and there's the arrow tip right there. And who would shoot our friend the Sphinx through the head with an arrow? Well, the ancient texts say it was Hercules. So let's look at the ancient text. Let's look at the arrow that came through his head and where the shaft came down, and why nobody's ever seen this, and why nobody understands that the Sphinx is literally was a living head from a giant, and they put this on top of some giant lion's body. And I'm going to tell you right now, that body is actually some kind of biology. I don't know exactly what, but they covered it over with brick. They entered the anal cavity. I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. It was right here. There's the anal cavity they entered. It was right at the butt. You see here? They call this the shaft D, the rump shaft. And they went right in there, and it says shaft D, covered here, allows access to the upward curve of the rump. It goes in up into his guts. Well, what does it look like when they enter that hole? Which is it's a butthole. And here's what it looked like. Standing here. I mean, that's what it is. Natural or unnatural? I'd say that's natural. And when the guy pooped, that's either that, or it could be a vagina. I don't know. But it's definitely some kind of an anatomical cavity that enters in here and has both of those features possible. It could be an anal cavity or it could be a vaginal cavity, but it's coming right through the butt of the Sphinx. Now, I'm going to show you a couple other shots that just show that the Sphinx head is different than the body. So this I don't know anything about, but the head, I'm pretty sure got shot through the head with an arrow, because that's what it says in the ancient text. Hercules killed all the giants. It says all the giants he shot with arrows. Now, Sphinx's head is a pretty good-sized giant. This is before they did anything to this thing. Now, you can obviously see that the head is a completely different color, basically, than the body. Now, I don't know what that's all about. I believe they put this head on here, and when we look carefully, you can see where they just plastered it in, basically. But I can also see the anatomy that shows there's almost no question whatsoever. This head was alive at one time. It came from something, I don't know what, how they moved it over here, but they had giants. So this looks like it was put there as an honorary piece, you know, after the end of the giant era, because Hercules killed all the giants. This is what the text wrote. And then Gaia, who was Mother Earth, who the giants were her children, basically. And she had sex with Tartarus and brought forth Typhon, who is the dragon in the desert. And he attacked the gods. And he got Ares, which was the fish, in the desert. And then they both are laying there dead, I don't know. Now, this, I'm going to show you the anatomical details. It literally proves that head was at one time a living creature's head. And if you can argue with that, you get your doctor, you get your anatomist, you get your biologist. Let's talk. Okay, get your anatomist. You got your blue and your red blood. The blue is your vein blood. The red is your arterial blood. It has all that good oxygen. On both sides, it has the same thing coming straight up your neck. Speaking of necks, wait till you see this picture. Somebody sent me this a long time ago. Oh, look at this. You ever seen anything like that? That is freaky. And this was long before there was AI. I don't know, 10 years ago or more. And I'm not sure where this is, but they do this. They put these rings in when they're little babies, and the neck conforms to these rings. Look at that. Anyway, the world is so fascinating when you really pay attention to things. So what are we looking at? Blood and blood on both sides. Well, can I see that? Well, yes, I can. There it is right there. That blood is blowing out. And at one point, it actually leaked out, and I'll show you that in a second. Now, so let's just look at this. Right now, there's probably birds of nesting in here and pooping and so forth. But at one time, this vein and the artery, right here, they come right up. This is where they are. I just showed you that. Where did I show it to you? Maybe I didn't. Yes, I did. There's a vein in the artery. They come on both sides, not just one. All right, so we saw the one here. That's on the right side of the guy's head. All right, now I believe this is one and that's the other. All right, now let's go to the other side of his head. That's the side, that's the side, that's the side. I had one here somewhere. Here it is, right here. So this is the one side. Now we're going to the other side. Guess what? Same thing right there. Same thing. It's leaking blood out of there. And you can see how it's plastered in at the neckline here. This is something, they plastered this in to the body of, it looks to me like it was actually a living creature at one time. When you go through that anal canal, I mean, you know, what can I say? And then I see some other spots that if it was me, I'd like to investigate. They're on the side. There's some spots that look like blood. Now, there's some blocky looking stuff here that I cannot explain at all. But this right here could be blood, which would be an area where there'd be a lot of blood coming down from, like I believe almost all of this was actual creature. The butt is real. That I can tell you right now. And they can test this stuff. There is no way in the world they can say they cannot test this. This is like, I mean, it's hard to dismiss this just out of hand. Oh, no, it's just a hole in there. No, it's not. That is anatomical, and it is natural, but it is also unnatural in our minds. Where I would go and test is like this, and the red areas, and the black areas, and wherever you see a tube going in there, you're going to have some blood. or something. It's going to be some bodily fluids are going through there. Look at this little circle. There's all kinds of things that they could test. This could be the vein, and this could be an artery. I don't know, but I can see red, bloody spots all over the place, and there's no way they could not be able to tell what's going on here. If you went in here and cleaned it off really good, you should be able to see the anatomy of whatever that cavity was from, whether it's an anal cavity, vaginal cavity, whatever. The anatomy is there. There's absolutely no question about that. All right, we know they did a lot of work to this. This is early in the phase of restoration. Now, I'm going to show you up close, but you can see the actual arrow tip coming through here. That is not his nose, in my opinion, and I'll show you why in other shots that I can make that statement. Now, you see it coming down here? I'm veering off to this side. That's not his nose, and you can actually see the actual shaft. And there's a hole coming right down from the top. Right down from the top of his head, there's a hole. And I believe the arrow tip is sticking right there. This is a pretty good shot right here. This is where the hole in his head was. There was just a hole there. And if you follow it down, it hits here. Now, this is the nasal cavity right here. This is not the nasal cavity. That, I believe, is a shaft, and I believe this and here is where the arrowhead was tied on here. It looks like to me, I don't know. I've had other people say the same thing. They say, yeah, you know, we agree that it certainly looks like that, and it certainly does. Now, the hole comes right down from the top. Now, in the ancient text, it says Hercules shot all of them, every one of the giants with arrows. That's all I can say. All right, you got to really pay a close attention to what you see. Those two spots, I say, are the vein and the artery, and they're just directly below the ear. Well, in the anatomical, that's exactly where they are. The ear is right up in here, and they're right down exactly below the ear. And the rest, all the anatomical part is there. The nose cavity is here, but the arrow comes to this side and branches off. You can actually see the hole for the nose cavity. You see here? That's right in the center of his forehead. That's where the cavity should be. And it just should be down here, though. And coming down to where his nose would be at the bottom. Well, the arrowhead is stuck in the middle of his nose. That's what I'm seeing. I don't know about you. And this stuff here is blood really dripping down, I believe, is a let's take another shot, looking at another place. I believe there's actually been body fluids that collected here and solidified at one time, whether they left them here or it just over the course of draining through that hole, it collected down here. But one way or the other, there's a collection of what looks like to me body fluids. Okay, so let's take this one step at a time. You got the arrow coming down through here, and it ends up down here. And the shaft is right there. This cavity should have been a little bit wider, but it's definitely a cavity that was his nose. In my mind, I don't see any other possibility there. Now, you see this? I don't think that's just his lip. Something either ran down this way or ran down that way. I think there's an extra stuff here, which has pushed his nose a little bit out of the way, or this is an accumulation of something. It looks like it to me. Coming right out of this area. Now, why would it come out of there? A couple reasons. Things would be draining out of his nose and coming down here trying to find the easiest way out. Because there's a hole through his head. There's a hole down through his head. Water's going to collect in there. It rains there sometimes. All right, this is when they were just in the early excavation phases. Hole on top of the head of the Sphinx. And this guy's standing in it. That's the size of the arrow shaft. And they capped it off. But it was open when they got there, I believe. I mean, nobody had a cap on it. Now they do. But at some point, it would have been leaking water through there. Now the cap is on here, see? But that's... I don't see how that can be dismissed easily. I mean, what is this? Why is this here? Why is that there? The only thing I can think of is an arrow shaft, and this looks like it's tied with something there, and there's the tip of the arrow. And this stuff here is running off, either dripping down here and running off this way, or whatever. It's blood running down. You see how red this stuff is? It's very red, because that's the color of blood. Now, again, this was early in the excavation days. And then they capped that off, and these separation lines here, I understand those now. For a long time, that's always bothered me because I find them in a lot of things, and I wonder, why would it do that? Why would be these cracks happening? Well, I do understand it now, and it's the settling of the blood. The red blood and the vein blood. You got red and blue or black, in mud fossils is black, but they're two different oxygenation states, and they oppose each other, and they puddle. You get a puddle of red, and it pushes the black up, so you get a crack. You get a crack because of its blood, and then because that one opposes the next one, you get another crack. So then it's like dipoles. You got a positive, negative, positive, negative, positive, and just crack, 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 and that's why I show this. Well, here I might as well do it again. Hold on. This is what we're looking at right there. Is this kind of layering? This, I don't know exactly what it was, but it was some kind of an organ, and it has the same thing. The puddles of blood would separate. You see how this is black? I don't know. It sometimes looks shiny. You can't see that it's black. But this is the black blood, and that's the vein blood, and it pushes the red blood away. So you end up with the red blood on the bottom and the black blood on the top, and creates a crack. Push, because the black opens up, and then by the time you're done, you've got cracks all over the place, and that's what you got here. That's what causes that. Now, the other thing you can take away here is how much of this head did they really put on here? Because the head is different from the rest of it. Now, when you look at this, like, it looks like brickwork under here. And what is this? And there's another one over here. I don't know. And if you look at it really up close, it almost looks like they were slapping clay on here. But the rest of this, as far as I'm concerned, all of this here, that is biological. Obviously with the headdress and so forth, I would think is not. But I got to be honest with you. Nothing is out of the question anymore. I would like to see what this headdress is made out of. But it's obviously, to me, a headdress of some sort. And the rest is basically biology. So we were looking at the arrow coming through his head, and that's what it said. That's what it said in the ancient text. He shot him in the head with arrows, killed them all with arrows while they were dying, and he was shooting them through their eyes. Now, that's what it says. In one place, he shot him through one eye, and another guy shot him through the left eye, the right eye and the left eye, while one of the giants lay dying. Now, this was that giant turkey feather I showed you. And this is up close, looking at the feather, little, I forget, barbules they call them, something like that. And here is that feather. This is a turkey feather. As far as I'm concerned, that's a turkey feather. And it's 3 inches thick. So things are not as we have been led to believe. And the things of the past need to be re-examined. We just got to think them over again. And here's one thing that, you see this, how the red looking this is? Blood is going to leak from somewhere, and it's going to work its way. Red blood is very fluid, and it will find a way out somewhere. Is that red blood? I don't know. Or was they just came up and patched this with some red brick? It could be. These are the things I don't know. But like up here, I would tell you right now, I would like to see what is coming out of that hole, because I think that's likely some kind of biology. Now, why these blocks are here, I don't know. But they look biological to me. I'm going to tell you the truth. I know they look you'd say, oh, no, they put these blocks here. Well, maybe they did. Or maybe they didn't. But you could tell if you could get right up and close here and look into these and look at the structure of those little spots, because to me, that's where there's blood coming out. And there could be blood coming out of there. If I know this thing had some biology to it. When you look at the back of that butthole, that's it. That clinched it for me as far as the body goes. Otherwise, it really doesn't look all that biological. Well, it does. Like I say, you got to get up and look at where the blood is. That's the only way you can identify these things. You can't identify them any other way than finding the vein and artery. And as far as I've found, everything that I have found has red and black blood. I haven't found anything with any other oddball-looking blood. It's just red and black. The ancient ones, the Titans, they had blood cells that were over 3 feet wide. Blood cells, single cell 3 feet wide. These were the titans that really were the giants that were the earth. They were in the earth, but they were the earth because they were in the earth, and that's the earth. And that's exactly what it says. There was giants in the earth in those days. So let's not talk about that anymore. That's just too, that's too crazy. And then there was more giants after that. It's exactly what it says in Genesis. There was giants in the earth in those days. And then after that, there's more giants. But they were only puppies. They were only a couple miles tall. The first ones were so big that they were, half a dozen of them made up the earth, basically. And every culture, 100% on the face of the planet, had the same story. The earth was made of some kind of biology. 100%. Not a single one didn't have that. And not a single one didn't talk about dragons. Not a single one didn't talk about giants. Not a single one didn't talk about the great flood. Not a single one didn't talk about heaven and hell. Not a single one didn't talk about the gods and the, battles in the heavens. Everything, 100%. Now, are all of those people crazy? Just insane people making these stories up? Is there something built into their mind that just pops these things out of their mind? Because most of them, at this point, they didn't even have any interaction with each other. These guys are living over here, he's living over there, never talked to each other. Same story here, same story here. Why? That's my hand screaming. Ah! Why? Tell me why. So you can get violent in the screen. I'm telling you, that's still freaking me out. Whoa. That's got, I don't know, man. This should be spring-loaded. I got to be honest with you. Otherwise, it's going to be too heavy. I would have put springs in there to make it automatically come back. Look at this. This is hilarious. The rise of the dinosaurs can be tracked in their fossilized poop. Welcome to Jurassic poop. This is the kind of stuff they're studying.
Yo, that's crazy. My mind is blown. Never heard this theory. Shout outs to Roger Spur, Mother Fossil University. But I definitely see that arrow he's talking about going through the top of the head. It's great that he had the excavational photos from back in the day to show how they looked when they were being worked on. It was crazy seeing all them guys stand up on the sides of the neck area. Even the neck area with the veins right there on the side. Yo, this was really eye-opening right here. The Titans. After watching this video, I'm left under the assumption that maybe this statue was once alive and now it's fossilized. And if that was the case, would that make Hercules real? Like, when the myth becomes fact, like, yo, a lot to think about with this one. Very interesting.
Caution, because what you're about to experience in this energy healing session can ultimately change and alter your current state of reality into a new one. If this is something you don't want to receive, then I would highly recommend skipping this video, because this is not for everyone. My intentions for today's energy healing session is to help to raise your vibrational frequencies into a higher timeline so you can quantum jump into the best version of yourself. If this is something you would like to receive, then simply nod or say I accept. Let's begin. Now, the best way for this healing to work is if you believe it with all that you are. Really feel and embody this version of yourself as you become it right now. Anything is possible in the realms of infinite possibilities. I call upon your spirit team to be present through this healing. May they assist you with raising your vibrational frequencies into your highest timeline. The whole entire universe is conspiring in your favor. Keep believing in yourself, because nothing is impossible. I will now proceed to pull out and remove any blockages or limiting beliefs from you, so you can truly embody and step into your highest timeline. Please take a big deep breath in and out. I am here to remind you that you can do anything. You just truly need to believe in yourself and don't give up. Really feel your energy rise. You are powerful beyond measure. The stars are truly aligning for you. And everything is working out for you in the best way possible. I am now sealing off this energy healing, as you have now stepped into and quantum leaped into the best version of yourself. Watch now how your whole entire reality and life changes. And so it is.
And so it is. Shout out to Healing and Beyond. Hope this one helped. Quantum jumping into your highest timeline healing. When we've been talking about these timelines for real, 3D, 5D. Claim this positive energy. I shall as well. Peace and blessings.
Welcome to the mysterious stranger.
What?
Hello.
Who are you?
An angel.
What's your name?
Satan. What's the matter?
Nothing. Only it's sure a sorry name for an angel.
Did you see that? Mercy.
How do you learn to do that?
I didn't learn it at all. It comes naturally to me, like other curious things.
Oh boy.
Can we help?
You may make some people.
There. Here's a buddy.
Now we'll give them life.
Moving.
Looks like my pap on Saturday night.
What's crazy is as I was watching it, I remember that I watched it as a kid. It used to scare me back then. The Adventures of Mark Twain. It was straight truth in plain sight. That's crazy.
What we need is Alexandria's Royal Library, the largest collection of knowledge from the ancient world.
The library that burned down thousands of years ago?
Ah, I see we have a history buff. But then of course you know that the fire was only a cover, a way to hide the library's most important secrets. Welcome to Serapeum 2, the Royal Library of Alexandria. The Lemurian section is down here, and this isn't all of it. The best stuff is stuck behind that door. They say it was locked by the Lemurians themselves. Lovely locks. It seems you're officially Lemurian. Nice one, Visk. Just focus on the light, Viskerton. Focus on the light.
And that's a wrap. Hope you enjoyed tonight's rabbit hole. If you enjoyed this video, why don't you check this one right here? Thanks again. Till next time.